The following episode will contain spoilers. You have been warned.
You're listening to Cinema IRL, the podcast that throws you into the movie and asks the question, what would you do? Are you a homebody? What if your home was a barn and you couldn't leave for over a year? Welcome to the Nazi occupation story Amber and Scott discuss after watching Whitebird. Now, Cinema IRL.
I wish I could switch places for just one day.
What would you do?
Put yourself in my shoes.
How do we handle this?
What would you do?
Put yourself in my position.
What would you do?
Now it's your turn.
I was told there would be dancing.
Yeah. Everyone needs dancing on their birthday, even when they're hiding from the Nazis.
Especially when they're hiding from the Nazis.
Yes. So in this episode, we are talking about Whitebird. It is a film where we follow Julian, who has struggled to belong ever since he was expelled from his former school for basically bullying another kid. So to transform his life, Julian's grandmother finally reveals to Julian her own story of courage. During her youth in Nazi-occupied France, a boy shelters her from mortal danger. And just so we're clear here, the boy that sheltered her was named Julian, and the grandson is also named Julian, named after the original Julian. So when we talk about folks here, let's be clear. Let's call him Julian 1.
Let's be honest. Grandson Julian doesn't really play a huge role in this.
Yeah. So he was expelled from school from bullying, and he kind of dismisses it as being like, oh, when I left my old school. And his grandma was like, no, you were expelled from bullying a boy and being terrible to him. And so she starts sharing her story of how when France became occupied by the Nazis, a boy named Julian, who had polio, so he had a crutch, and he was bullied and made fun of, basically saved her and hid her with his family for a year.
Over a year, yeah.
Before he was ultimately picked up by the Nazis for being crippled and was shot. And then after that, she continued to live with them until France was liberated.
Yeah, crippled, and when your bullies get guns, it's not a good thing.
Yeah, for sure. So I really enjoyed this film a lot. It was as enjoyable as a film about Nazi-occupied France can be, but it was a story of a young boy who did the right thing when he had every reason not to, and how he not only saved Zara, the young girl, but formed a friendship and a relationship with her that she wasn't capable of having prior to him stepping up, because like everyone else, she just dismissed him as being the weird kid that they called Crab because he walked funny.
I can think of worse things to be called, but I don't think I'd want to be called Crab either.
Yeah, thank goodness for the polio vaccine. So many folks just suffered so terribly from that terrible disease.
Yeah, definitely. It's a good story about, a lot of things. Bullying is not okay, for one.
Have you ever had a bully?
Yeah, not like a specific one necessarily. I usually just kind of pissed a bunch of people off, and they all kind of wanted to bully me.
I had two bullies who were best friends. One of them was...
That's a bummer.
Yeah, it was. One of them was a large gal named Tony, and I can see her as clearly as I can see you in front of me right now. And the other girl's name, she had blonde feathered hair. I do not remember her. Oh, I think it was Jackie. I could probably verify it in the yearbook. I believe her name was Jackie. And for no reason at all, they would just be mean to me.
Oh, no, they had a reason. You just don't know what it is.
Well, I think it's because I was beautiful and they were ugly.
So humble.
Oh, I'm sorry. Beautiful and smart. But so let's get down to the nitty gritty here of the movie. So what would I do if I was Julian? And those were some scary times. Basically, a bunch of Nazis arrived at the school with a list of names of the kids in the school who were Jewish and intended to round them up and take them away. And although the teachers tried to whisk the kids away to safety, they wound up collecting all of them except for Zara. And Julian says, "Come follow me," and sneaks her off the property and gets to their property.
I'd like to note at this point, Andre, what would you do? If you promise your dad that you're going to wear your winter boots like all the time, wear your winter boots all the time. If a teacher tells you to grab your jacket, grab your jacket.
Yeah, Zara's dad basically said, don't wear your pretty shoes, wear your winter boots. And she got to school and promptly changed into her pretty red shoes. And
Then she was almost pretty fucked.
Yeah, when it was time to run through the forest in the snow, she definitely struggled without having those winter boots on. Her dad knew what he was talking about. So I think a lot of us, when we're kids, we think we know better than our parents, but parents always know better. They do.
I won't say always. Excuse me. I won't say always, but a lot.
Yeah. So what would I do if I was in Julian's shoes? Wow. It takes such courage for how old do you think those characters were? Maybe 13, 14?
13, 14, yeah, somewhere around there.
So for a 13 or 14-year-old bullied kid,
Maybe 15.
to step up and whisk someone away in the face of military with guns, rounding up people in the forest and actually shooting someone on the school property, I would like to say I would do the right thing, but I don't know if I would have done it in that moment.
Oh hell no. I am shutting up. I am doing whatever it is to not get myself killed.
See, and that's the sad part about that time in our history is people did just that. And that's why this story was so inspiring, because it wasn't just someone helping. Okay, we have lots of helper movies and helper stories, but it was a bullied boy with polio who was already an outsider. And you know, actually, as I say that, maybe that's why he had the courage to go against the grain, because he was already an outsider.
F it, what do I got to lose?
Yeah. So as time passes and he goes to spend time with her in the barn where she's been hidden for that first year, and Julian shows up every night to keep her up with school lessons and school gossip and help her pass the time. So out of most of the day being by herself, she looks forward to this time with Julian. And this movie is promoted as a movie about kindness. And I think that's really a wonderful way to look at this film, because it's one thing to hide someone, which a lot of brave people did during the war. But the level of kindness that Julian and his family showed Zara was
yeah, I mean, it
amazing.
It was. I mean, and obviously you're right. I mean, that was a time period where, like, you need a lot of kindness or you're going to have a lot of dead people. I mean, as bad as the Holocaust was, it could have been worse.
So many brave souls stepping up in ways that I can't even imagine. So what would I do if I was Zara? Wow. To be hidden and not knowing what became of her parents, because all of this happened while she was at school. So she never had any idea where her parents were, if they were alive, if they were taken away. She had no information on her parents. And if I were Zara, I would live in a constant state of fear. I mean, I can't begin to imagine the stakes during that period of time.
Yeah, no, it's... I don't even know if our generation can truly put it all into context, how incredibly scary a time that was.
Because if you even looked at someone the wrong way, you could be carted off and taken away from your family and murdered. And
like, don't get me wrong, they were actively going after Jews, but
there was a lot of
if
other folks.
they didn't like the way you looked at them, it didn't matter whether or not you were Jewish.
Yeah. So many other people got rounded up. And when you have that kind of total power from people who are just scary and dangerous and doing all the wrong things, and it doesn't matter if you're on the side of right when you have people in power who are on the side of wrong. I worked for the Museum of Tolerance for a couple of years. And for those who aren't familiar, the Museum of Tolerance is a Holocaust museum. And so this is actually a topic that, even though I certainly didn't live during that period, and I don't personally have any family attached to that time in history, I did have the opportunity to spend time with survivors when I had worked at the Museum of Tolerance, and not only hearing their stories, but also realizing the importance of documenting those stories, because that's such an important part of history. And it blows my mind to think that we actually have people in society who deny the Holocaust.
Well, I mean, the thing is we need a record of history, especially its negative parts, so that we are hopefully smart enough to not repeat it.
Yeah, and that comes in so many different forms of not repeating history, and sadly, generations do end up repeating so many things, even though they look a little different. And you think about things in our country, in the United States, over the last several years, who are very reminiscent of decades past, and it's extremely troubling.
Yes. I mean,
When you see a photo of people, walking with torches, and you realize it's not the 1960s, but it's 2016 or so, that's terrifying.
I mean, I know you don't like getting political. I've been known to do it every once in a while.
Yeah, I try to keep politics out of here, but when we're talking about an issue about the Holocaust, you can't help but to look at the bigger picture.
Like, people want to deny how many similarities that there are between Hitler and Trump. And while I am by no means saying that Trump is as bad as Hitler, like, there's no one as bad as Hitler. But let me tell you, if you look at a lot of the lead up to where he got, like, he didn't seem like he was as bad until all of a sudden he was. And
well, Hitler was the one that basically said if you tell a lie frequently enough, people start to believe it.
yeah, and guess who's telling a lie frequently enough that has 40-something% of the population believe in it?
Yeah.
Like stolen elections and stuff like that. Yeah, no, it's like you've got to learn from history and not repeat these. And sometimes it could. And I mean, I know the timing of when I release episodes. This is more than likely going to be coming out probably right before the election. So, yeah, I'll get political. Guys, don't repeat history.
This movie, as you're talking, and I'm thinking about what I would do in all of these characters' shoes. I recently took this assessment, this kind of personality purpose life assessment. And it was really interesting in the fact that it identified me as someone who's very cause related. And I know if I lived during the Holocaust, me and my mom absolutely would have been a family who helped someone who needed it. And
I mean,
I just want to give so much more extra credit, though, to Julian, because it wasn't just, hey, come hide here. It was the imminent threat of the military there and the guns and that level of bravery.
yeah, I mean, and while I said at the beginning I wouldn't do that, I wouldn't do that in 2024. There's no real need to. But yeah, you go to 1942, I mean, it's kind of a different story and scenario of what's going on with your world. And I mean, I like to think that for the most part, I'm a kind person and I wouldn't put up with that. And I would help as much as I reasonably could. But also in the same respect, you've got to, I mean, even then you have to weigh your risks. Like you don't want to get your family killed when they might otherwise not by helping someone. But if you think it's like, if that person can stay hidden and do what they need to do to not be found, and I'm like, okay, well, yeah, my family could be killed if it's found, but they're not going to get found. I can help. I'm probably going to help.
Well, and as a parent, I think it's so important to set examples for your kids. And are you going to be someone who gives an example of kindness and compassion and humanity? Or are you going to be someone who gives a message of indifference and apathy and fear? I say choose kindness.
Yeah,
choose kindness.
I do too. Final thoughts.
Choose kindness.
Choose kindness.
We hope you enjoyed our episode. Thank you for listening. And to catch all the new episodes, please subscribe. We release 2 to 3 episodes weekly, so we'll have new content regularly. Until next time.